All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at Nalas Nalanda. It's this book by Hong Van Trom, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's really something. I mean, it's got philosophy, it's got cosmology.
It's kind of got everything right, and it's all based on the teachings of this figure, Nalas Nalanda.
Well, and what makes it really interesting is Nalas Nalanda, the text claims, is actually a being called a Tulin.
Okay, a Tulin.
Yeah, a Tulin. And they've basically been reincarnated as a human to share knowledge and to guide others towards enlightenment.
So this isn't just like your average self-help guru.
Yeah, no.
This is a whole other level.
Whole other level.
But what exactly, I say, a Tulin?
So imagine like a realm of pure energy. And in this realm, beings are formed from yin and yang embryos and nurtured in quartz crystal caves.
Wow.
That's where the Tulin come from.
That sounds pretty idyllic. Sign me up.
Right. It does sound pretty nice.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even these beings, they experience a form of suffering, according to the text.
Right.
They have this intellectual wave code that records all of their experiences, all their desires. And apparently, paradise can get boring if you live there for eternity.
So you're telling me these Tulins get bored of paradise and choose to be reborn as humans. That's like winning the lottery and trading it in to go wait in line at the DMV.
It's kind of a counterintuitive concept, right? But think about it like this. Even in our lives, we crave challenge. Mm-hmm. We seek out ways to grow.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like this universal yearning, even for beings in this seemingly perfect realm.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here. But how does this tie back into Nalas Nalanda and his whole mission?
Well, Nalas Nalanda believes that Earth is essentially a training ground for Tulins.
Okay.
And by experiencing human life with all its, ups and downs, they can learn, overcome suffering, and ultimately transform their energy embryos into something called energy filters.
Energy filter.
Which is like a higher state of being.
So it's like Earth is like cosmic boot camp for spiritual evolution. But how does simply being human help these Tulins achieve enlightenment? We make mistakes, we get caught up in drama, we eat too much pizza.
Right.
That doesn't sound very enlightening.
Well, that's where this concept of toxins comes in.
Okay. Toxins.
The text describes toxins as these negative energies that we accumulate through our experiences and actions. Think like jealousy, greed, anger, selfishness.
So it's like those negative thought patterns and behaviors we all struggle with, right? The things that kind of leave us feeling drained and just out of whack.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Nalas Nalanda, by confronting and transforming these toxins, we're actually purifying our energy and moving closer to enlightenment.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
So by living these human lives, even messy ones, we're essentially facing our inner toxins, learning from them, and ultimately evolving.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
And this idea of transforming negative energy, that's a huge theme throughout the text. And Nalas Nalanda doesn't sugarcoat things. He acknowledges that there are challenges. But he also emphasizes this power of choice that we have.
Right.
The ability to consciously choose a more enlightened path.
So it's not about being perfect, but about recognizing those toxins and actively working to transform them.
That's right. And it's not just about individual growth either.
Okay.
Nalas Nalanda actually lays out a plan for Tulins to achieve enlightenment through experiencing very specific forms of human life.
And this is where those 4 commandments come in, right? The ones that he presents at the gathering of humanity.
You got it.
Okay.
He talks about 4 key forms of life: family, social, national, and teacher-student relationships. And each one is designed to help us confront our toxins and cultivate compassion.
I am really intrigued by this idea of specific forms of life being designed for spiritual growth. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Absolutely. Let's start with family. So Nalas Nalanda sees the family as that foundation of human experience, the first place where we learn about things like love, responsibility, and connection.
But he also acknowledges that family life can be messy, right? I mean, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, for sure. He definitely doesn't shy away from that. He actually talks about the potential for conflict, misunderstandings, even betrayal within families.
Yeah.
And he sees these challenges as opportunities to actually confront those deeper toxins.
So even those annoying arguments with your siblings or that time you got grounded for sneaking out, those could actually be contributing to your spiritual evolution.
In a way, yes. Because it's about recognizing the toxins at play, things like jealousy, resentment, the need for control. And it's about learning to navigate those dynamics with greater awareness and with compassion.
Okay, so family life is boot camp level 1. What about the social form?
So that social form That expands our circle of interaction beyond just family. So we're encountering a wider range of personalities, beliefs, experiences, and that creates even more opportunities for growth.
But also more potential for conflict, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, navigating friendships, romantic relationships, work dynamics.
Yeah.
It can be a minefield sometimes.
It can be challenging for sure. But Nalas Nalanda emphasizes the importance of choosing our social connections wisely, surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth, and setting healthy boundaries with those who drain our energy or bring out those negative toxins.
So it's about recognizing that our social environment has a direct impact on our well-being, our energy, even our spiritual progress.
You got it.
Okay.
And it's about taking responsibility for creating a positive, supportive social network. Nalas Nalanda even highlights the importance of engaging in activities that bring us joy and connect us with like-minded individuals.
So that weekly pottery class or volunteering at the animal shelter could actually be more than just hobbies.
Right.
They could be contributing to our spiritual growth.
That's the idea. It's about creating a life that nourishes our soul, that helps us cultivate positive energy, and that supports us on that journey towards enlightenment.
This is fascinating stuff. It's making me look at my everyday experiences in a whole new light. But we've still got two more forms of life to unpack: the national and the teacher-student relationships.
Yes, we do. And that's where things get even more complex and intriguing.
All right, listeners, stay tuned because we're just getting warmed up. We'll be right back to dive even deeper into the world of Nalas Nalanda and his mind-blowing teachings. Welcome back. So last time we left off with those 4 commandments from Nalas Nalanda's teachings, specifically the different forms of life that act as these training grounds for spiritual growth. And we covered the family and social forms, pretty relatable stuff. But now we're going to be venturing into some potentially less familiar territory. The national form.
Yes, the national form is where things get really, really interesting. Because you see, Nalas Nalanda isn't just talking about our relationship to like a specific country or government. He's talking about our sense of belonging to like a larger community, our responsibility to something much bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this connects to the idea of toxins. So on a national level, you could have toxins like corruption or greed, abuse of power, all those things that kind of create disharmony and suffering on this huge scale.
Exactly. And Nalas Nalanda argues that these toxins can actually infect not just individuals, but entire societies. He even suggests that the rise and fall of civilizations throughout history can be traced back to the presence or absence of these negative energies.
Wow. So what's the antidote? How do we combat these national toxins and create a more harmonious society?
Well, Nalas Nalanda really emphasizes the importance of conscious leadership. He says that those in positions of power, they have a responsibility to act with integrity, with compassion, and with a genuine desire to serve the well-being of all, not just themselves.
So it's not just about like enacting laws or policies, but about cultivating a certain mindset, a certain way of being in the world, right?
Precisely. Nalas Nalanda even suggests that leaders should actively seek out opportunities to actually confront and transform their own toxins. And he believes that by doing so, they can actually create this ripple effect of positive energy throughout the entire nation.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if leaders are operating from this place of greed or ego, you know, it's going to trickle down and create a whole culture of corruption and distrust. But if they're genuinely focused on serving that greater good, then that's going to radiate outwards and inspire others to do the same, right?
That's a great insight. And this idea of conscious leadership applies not just to political figures, but to anyone who is in a position of influence. So it means teachers, community leaders, even parents within their families. It's about recognizing that our actions and choices, they have an impact that extends far beyond ourselves.
So it's about taking responsibility for our own energy, our own toxins, and understanding that we have this power to create positive change, even on this larger scale.
Exactly. And that brings us to that final form of life, the teacher-student relationship.
Okay, so this is where things get really, really meta, right? I mean, we're essentially teacher and student right now as we guide our listeners through this deep dive into Nalas Nalanda's teachings.
Yes, we are. And Nalas Nalanda really emphasizes the importance of this relationship. He sees it as a powerful tool for spiritual growth. He sees the transmission of knowledge and wisdom as this sacred act, one that requires both humility and responsibility.
So it's not just about like stuffing our heads with information, but about cultivating understanding, compassion, and a genuine desire to help others grow, right?
Precisely. And he cautions both pupils and students against the potential toxins that can actually arise in this dynamic. So for teachers, there's this temptation to become attached to their knowledge, to use it as a source of power or ego gratification.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can probably think of a few examples of teachers who seemed more interested in showing off their own brilliance than in actually helping their students learn, right?
Well, absolutely. And for students, there's this potential to become passive recipients of information rather than being active participants in that learning process. They might blindly accept what they're told without questioning or critically examining the information.
So it's really about fostering a dynamic exchange where both teacher and student are open to learning and growing together, right?
Exactly. And Nalas Nalanda even suggests that the roles of teacher and student can often be fluid, with each person taking turns guiding and being guided.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to look at it. We're all teachers and students in different aspects of our lives, constantly learning and evolving through our interactions with others.
And this idea of lifelong learning, of constantly seeking out new knowledge and new perspectives, that's essential for spiritual growth. Nalas Nalanda believes that by cultivating an open mind and a willingness to challenge our own beliefs, we can continue to transform those toxins and move closer to enlightenment.
So it's not about reaching some static endpoint, but about embracing the journey of self-discovery and spiritual evolution.
Precisely. And this journey is not meant to be traveled alone. We can learn and grow from each other, support each other's transformations, and ultimately contribute to the creation of a more harmonious and enlightened world.
I love that idea. It's a reminder that we're all connected. Our actions and choices have this ripple effect, and that we have this power to create positive change, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
And that brings us right back to the core of Nalas Nalanda's teachings,
the
concept of the unified Tao of the universe.
Okay, I've been so curious about this unified Tao. Ever since we started diving into this text, it sounds so grand and mysterious. Can you, shed some light on what it actually means?
Absolutely. So in Nalas Nalanda's view, the unified Tao represents a state of perfect harmony and balance, both within ourselves and in relation to the universe. It's the ultimate goal of the Tulin's journey, the point at which all of those negative energies, all those toxins have been transformed, and we become these pure conduits of positive energy and enlightened wisdom.
So it's like reaching a state of complete alignment where our inner world is in sync with the outer world.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And achieving this state of alignment isn't about becoming emotionless or detached from the world. It's about experiencing life fully, with all of its joys and sorrows, but doing so from a place of deep understanding and compassion.
So it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves, both for our own benefit and for the benefit of all beings, right?
Exactly. And Nalas Nalanda believes that by consciously working to transform our toxins and cultivate that enlightened wisdom, we can all contribute to the realization of this unified Tao, creating a more harmonious and balanced world for ourselves and for generations to come.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff. It's making me reevaluate my own priorities, my own actions, and the kind of energy I'm putting out into the world.
That's a powerful realization.
Yeah.
And it speaks to that transformative potential of Nalas Nalanda's teachings. They offer us this new lens through which to view our lives, a new framework for understanding our challenges and our opportunities for growth.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to put some of these concepts into practice, but I'm also feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer scope of it all. Achieving the unified Tao sounds like a pretty lofty goal.
It is a lofty goal, but Nalas Nalanda reminds us that even small steps in the right direction can have a significant impact. He encourages us to focus on the present moment, to make conscious choices that align with our values, and to cultivate that sense of gratitude for all that we have.
So it's about taking those small steps day by day and trusting that we're moving in the right direction.
Exactly. And by doing so, we can create that ripple effect of positive change that extends outwards, impacting not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us, and ultimately the world as a whole.
This is a lot to digest, but it's definitely food for thought. I'm really curious to hear how our listeners are resonating with these ideas. Have you ever considered the idea of toxins in your own life? What steps are you taking to cultivate a more enlightened way of being? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences.
Yes, please feel free to share your insights. We can all learn and grow from each other's journeys.
We'll be right back after a short break to explore some practical examples of how to actually apply these teachings to your own life, so stay tuned. Okay, so we've explored some pretty mind-blowing concepts from Nalas Nalanda's teachings, like the idea of Earth as this training ground for spiritual beings, this whole concept of toxins as these negative energies that we kind of accumulate, and those 4 forms of life as like these crucibles for growth and transformation. But how do we actually apply this wisdom to our everyday lives? I mean, where do we start?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of get lost in the philosophy and the big ideas, but Nalas Nalanda is all about practical application. He wants us to use his teachings to create real change within ourselves and in the world around us.
Okay, so let's break it down. We've got those 4 forms of life: family, social, national, and teacher-student. Where do we even begin to tackle those toxins and cultivate that enlightened wisdom?
Well, let's start with family, since that's often like the most immediate, the most impactful sphere of our lives. Nalas Nalanda points out that the family dynamic is like a breeding ground for all sorts of these toxins. Things like jealousy between siblings, resentment towards parents, or even like those unhealthy communication patterns that kind of get passed down through generations.
Okay, so let's say you're dealing with a really toxic family situation. Maybe there's constant bickering, a total lack of support, or even some unresolved trauma from the past. How do you apply Nalas Nalanda's teachings to navigate that?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of understanding and forgiveness. Now, it's not about condoning hurtful behavior, but it's about recognizing that everyone's on their own journey, carrying their own baggage. So your parents, your siblings, they're all doing the best they can with the tools they have.
So it's about shifting from a place of blame and judgment to a place of compassion.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective, it can be so powerful. It doesn't mean you have to tolerate abuse or put yourself in harmful situations. But it does mean approaching those difficult relationships with a much greater sense of understanding and empathy.
That makes sense. Holding on to all that anger and resentment just creates more negativity, more of those toxins. But choosing to forgive, choosing to see things from another person's perspective, that can actually be a very powerful act of self-healing.
And it can also open up the possibility for reconciliation and for deeper connection. Remember, Nalas Nalanda believes that even the most challenging relationships can be opportunities for growth and transformation.
Okay, so we've kind of tackled family. What about that social form? I think a lot of us can relate to feeling drained or negative, after spending time with certain people. How do we apply Nalas Nalanda's wisdom to create a more positive, more supportive social circle?
He encourages us to be very intentional about our social connections. He says we should surround ourselves with people who uplift us, who inspire us to be our best selves, and who support us on our spiritual journey.
I mean, that sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that? I mean, sometimes those negative people are our coworkers or even family members we just can't avoid.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but Nalas Nalanda really emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries. You don't have to cut people out of your life completely, but you can choose how much time and energy you invest in those relationships.
So maybe instead of venting to that friend who always brings you down, you could seek out a more supportive ear. Or maybe you could limit your interactions with that negative coworker to just strictly professional matters.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices that protect your energy and your well-being. And remember, it's not selfish to prioritize your own spiritual growth. In fact, by becoming more balanced and aligned within yourself, you're actually much better equipped to help others.
That's a great point. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before assisting others, right? Okay, so we've covered family and social. Let's move on to the national form. This one feels a bit more abstract. How do we even begin to tackle those toxins on a societal level?
Nalas Nalanda emphasizes the importance of conscious citizenship. He believes that each of us has this responsibility to contribute to the creation of a more just, a more harmonious society.
So it's not just about voting in elections or paying our taxes. It's about actively engaging in the process of actually creating a better world.
Exactly. It might involve volunteering in your community, speaking out against injustice, or simply making choices that align with your values. Things like supporting businesses that treat their employees fairly or reducing your environmental impact.
So even those seemingly small actions can contribute to this greater good.
Absolutely. Nalas Nalanda reminds us that every thought, every action creates a ripple effect. And by choosing to act with intention, with compassion, and with that commitment to creating positive change, we can actually shift the energy of the entire system.
That's pretty empowering. It's a reminder that we're not powerless, even when facing these huge challenges.
It brings us back to the core of Nalas Nalanda's teachings, the idea that we all have this potential to become agents of transformation.
Okay, so we've covered family, social, national, and that leaves us with that final form of life, teacher-student. I feel like we've been engaging in this form throughout this whole deep dive.
We have. We definitely have. And I think Nalas Nalanda would be pleased. He believes that the teacher-student relationship is one of the most powerful vehicles for spiritual growth. It's about that transmission of knowledge, wisdom, and ultimately that enlightened energy we've been talking about.
So how can we apply this wisdom to our own roles as teachers and students? It's not just about formal education, right?
No, not at all. We're constantly teaching and learning from each other, whether we realize it or not. It could be something as simple as sharing a skill with a friend, offering advice to a coworker, or simply listening with an open heart to someone who needs to be heard.
So it's about approaching these interactions with a sense of humility and respect, recognizing that we all have something to teach and something to learn.
Exactly. And it's about being mindful of the energy that we're transmitting. Are we sharing our knowledge with a genuine desire to help others grow? Or are we motivated by ego, by a need to feel superior or in control?
That's a really great question to ask ourselves. It's like this reminder to check our intentions, make sure we're coming from a place of love and compassion rather than ego or self-interest.
And for those of us who are in the role of student, it's important to be open to new perspectives, to be willing to challenge our own beliefs, and to actively engage in that learning process.
So it's not about passively absorbing information, but about actively seeking out knowledge, questioning what we're told, and applying what we learn to our own lives.
Precisely. And remember, the ultimate goal of this whole teacher-student dynamic is not just to accumulate knowledge, but to cultivate that enlightened wisdom that allows us to live more fulfilling, more meaningful lives.
This has been such a rich and insightful deep dive. It's given me so much to think about and apply to my own life. How about you? What's resonating with you most from Nalas Nalanda's teachings?
Well, I'm really struck by his emphasis on personal responsibility. He doesn't offer any quick fixes or easy answers. He challenges us to become active participants in our own spiritual evolution, to make those conscious choices that align with our values, and to create positive change both within ourselves and in the world around us.
I think that's such a powerful message for all of us. We're not just passive passengers on this journey called life. We have the power to choose our direction, to navigate the challenges, and to create a more enlightened, more harmonious existence.
And as Nalas Nalanda reminds us, this journey is not meant to be traveled alone. We can support each other, learn from each other, and ultimately create a more beautiful world together.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Nalas Nalanda. We hope it's inspired you to kind of explore your own toxins, cultivate your own enlightened wisdom, and embark on your own journey towards the unified Tao. Until next time, keep